There's renewed attention right now on the National Weather Service and its role in forecasting severe weather and sending out alerts in time. The agency has been hit hard by staffing cuts under the Trump administration. CNN's Brian Todd is here with me in the Situation Room. Brian, I know you've been doing a lot of reporting on this. Take us through the timeline of warnings from the National Weather Service.
Well, Wolf, there is a lot of attention being paid this morning to that timeline of the rainfall and the flooding and whether the warnings were in fact adequate or not. 4 months of rain came down in just a matter of hours in that area. A wall of water surged down the Guadalupe River in the overnight hours Thursday into Friday. That limited the number of people who could get the warnings. The National Weather Service began forecasting the threat of flooding in Kerr County as early as Thursday morning, July 3rd, with a hazardous flood outlook. At 1:18 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, a flood watch was issued, highlighting Kerrville, among other locations, as being at risk of flash flooding. But local officials have pointed out the forecast was for less rain than the amount that actually ended up falling. There were several technical forecasts through Thursday afternoon and evening with increasingly heightened language about the magnitude of the potential flooding. Now we move ahead to 1:14 a.m. Central Time on Friday morning. The first warning for life-threatening flash floods for Kerrville came, and that was marked specifically to trigger the emergency alert system. Now that would have sounded the alarm on cell phones in the warned area, assuming those cell phones had service and their users hadn't turned off the alerts. At 4:03 a.m. Central Time on Friday, a flash flood emergency warning was issued for Kerr County. At 4:35 a.m. Central Time, the Kerr County Sheriff's Office sent the first report of flooding at low water crossings. At around 5 o'clock a.m. Central Time, this is a crucial moment here, on Friday, 5 o'clock Friday morning, the Guadalupe River burst from its banks, sweeping homes, cars, cabins, and people downstream. At 5:34 a.m. Central Time, a flash flood emergency warning was issued for Kerrville. Also, Alan Gerard, a former employee with the National Weather Service's National Severe Storms Lab, he spoke with Pamela Brown this morning and talked about just how horrific this rain and that surge on the river really were.
This really was a worst case scenario where you had 6 to 9 inches of rain fall in just a few hours right on top of that South Fork of the river. And the unfortunate reality is all the soil and hills in that area just funnel all of that rainfall right into the river, and you can just get these tremendous flood waves that develop extremely quickly.
It took about 90 minutes for a flood wave that measured about 20 feet to move down the Guadalupe River overnight on Thursday into Friday. This was that river's second highest crest on record. Wolf, it was horrific.
I know, Brian, there are some vacancies at the National Weather Service right now. What are you learning about that?
Well, according to our CNN reporting by our colleagues, Andrew Friedman, Emma Tucker, and Mary Gilbert, there are 2 offices of the National Weather Service in Texas that are closely involved in forecasting and warning about flooding on the Guadalupe River. Those are the Austin, San Antonio office of the National Weather Service and its office in San Angelo, Texas. They are missing some key staff members, but they still issued several watches and warnings about the flood danger. Tom Fahey, he is the legislative director for the Union. He told CNN that while he believes the offices had, quote, adequate staffing and resources, the Austin San Antonio office is missing what they call a warning coordination meteorologist. That's a role that serves as a crucial direct link between forecasters and emergency managers. We can also tell you that this morning, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said she is not aware of any breakdown in emergency warning systems that could have contributed to the high death toll. But Kerrville City Manager Dalton Rice says officials there are committed to doing what he calls a full review of events and the systems in place after so many questions have been raised about emergency notifications and evacuation guidance. Wolf, this has got to be a completely forensic review of this to figure out what may have broken down here.
Yeah, they got to learn the lessons learned.
Absolutely.
To make sure it never happens again.
Right.
Brian Todd, good reporting. Thank you very, very much.